All right, I would like to call the Finance, Ways and Means Committee to order to resume our budget hearings for today. And first up will be the Department of Safety and Homeland Security. And before we begin, without objection, we are out of session. We are now out of session, and I'd like to welcome Commissioner Long and his staff to the Finance, Ways and Means Committee. And without further ado, sir, we will control the microphones up here, so you'll be ready to speak when you are ready. And I'll just say this, we're trying to make sure we get a lot of folks on the list, so we're just going to ask everyone as they ask their questions and as you make your replies and your answers, just try to be as precise and as quick as you can so we can make sure everybody gets an opportunity to ask their questions. Commissioner, thank you for being here.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, thank you. Members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity. We know you always like to ask questions, so I'm going to be very, very brief in what I have to say. Respect for that time. We want to answer your questions and try to give you as much information as we can. Watching some of the others, I know there's 3 questions are always asked. I'll try to get those out of the way. We do not receive any COVID funds.
Good.
We did not or do not anticipate any loss of federal funding. And we have no ARPA funding. We've never received any of that. I have to say, if you don't mind, our great employees are hard workers and do a fantastic job and work extremely hard for the citizens of Tennessee. We want to thank you and Governor Lee for the past years of funding that you've given us. Just to give you an idea of what you've done in the past, you've given us 624 state trooper positions from 2019 to 2025, 127 Homeland Security agent positions. You give us an opportunity to finally have an interoperability system with all first responders by communications through our advanced communications network, where we now have 78,466 users, making up 167 agencies so far, and a lot more to go and a lot more to build out. I do want to say and remind everybody that a lot of times people, especially the citizens, sometimes don't think about it, but we are a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week operating facility and 365 days a year for our employees. We strive very hard on our partnerships with our federal, state, and local partners to make sure we're trying to work with them and do everything. Most of you remember you provided a school resource officer for every public and charter school in Tennessee. The sheriffs and the chiefs that apply for that grant are always complimentary, saying that's probably the easiest process in state government they've ever dealt with. And our employees are to be commended for that, making that as easy as it is. We're very proud, and the Colonel, I'm sure, will talk about it in any presentation he does on the fatality rate. We're hoping and have our hopes up that if we can get through the remainder of the year on the current trend that it is, we're hoping we will have a 10-year low on fatalities in the state of Tennessee. And that's based solely because you have provided us the troopers to cover the highways and to work the traffic that is across our highways across. We spent a lot of time, as most of you know, our troopers did in East Tennessee during the Helene flooding. We had about 160 troopers per day in East Tennessee. I think there were 23,000 man hours that were worked during that unfortunate incident. One thing I have to brag about too, about our communications network, is we've already seen where it has saved lives by first responders who couldn't communicate, were in the swift water, couldn't get any rescue, and they were able to use the walkie-talkies that are on our system and were able to get help. The good thing I'm glad to tell you about is I had a meeting with the chairman of Motorola not very long ago, and the build out was expected to take about 8 years. I got him to commit to complete our build out within 4 years. And also doing that, we were able to get him to lock in at the current day price, not the future price. So we're committing revenue to buy everything that's needed to build the entire system out at today's price. And hopefully we'll save millions of dollars in the future by not doing that over that period of time. As I said, we've worked hard with trying to work with our local and other state partners, and we've reappropriated a lot of surplus property to our distressed and at-risk counties. We've given out just radios alone, approximately 2,000 to our local partners who couldn't afford to buy radios to be on the system. Real quick, most of you know the Memphis State Task Force is currently operating. We have a little over 100 troopers per shift around the clock in partnership with our other partners down there. And we'll try to answer any questions you have about that. I will remind you there's some litigation going on about the Memphis State Safe Task Force. So we may be limited on what we can say about some things, but we'll be glad to answer any questions. Mr. Chairman, we're open for questions.
Thank you, Commissioner. We do have several folks on the list. We're going to begin with Chairman Gillespie. Chairman Gillespie, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner, team, Colonel, thank you all so much for being here. I just wanted to start off and just give my kudos to y'all in the Memphis area. Everything y'all are doing, we're seeing the results in real time. People are driving slowly. People are observing traffic signals, which makes life less stressful, which, you know, at the end of the day, quality of life is the main concern here. Obviously, arresting the bad guys goes a long way, but just bringing our quality of life to a better part by having less stress, going to and from work, taking kids to school, and going to the grocery store is very, very noted. So please keep up the great work. And personally, I will do anything I can to help y'all with future requests to keep that effort up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list, Representative Reeves.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioner and Colonel Perry. Thank you for being here.
Thank
So I'm going to kind of take it a different direction a little bit. You kind of opened it up, so I'll take it. I received a constituent email with concerns about Tennessee's new digital driver's license law, and there's a variety of sources talking about this online, and I wanted to give you or someone on your staff the opportunity to address it clearly here on the record. And since this is the Finance Committee, I'll start with the dollars and cents. What are the total projected costs to implement and maintain the digital ID program? And then additionally, can you confirm for the record that participation in that is just completely voluntary and that the traditional physical driver's license remains fully valid and available to every Tennessean?
Absolutely. You going to answer?
Elizabeth Stroker, Deputy General Counsel for the Department of Safety. And thank you. And we briefly talked earlier on this, and so we're happy to clear it up. The cost for the system, currently it's going to be a no cost with the vendors that we're going to be working with to provide the digital license. So the taxpayers won't see an increase or added additional costs if they choose to get a digital license. And as you alluded to, it is 100% optional. If you are not comfortable with it, you do not have to get it. If a business is not comfortable accepting it, they do not have to accept it. So it is 100% optional, both for the customer and any business if they so choose to accept digital licenses or not.
Representative Reeves.
And can you just confirm where it is not applicable? I think we've talked about it's not applicable for instance, voting. Can you talk about that for a second?
Yes, sir. You're absolutely correct. So this body made it very clear when that bill went through this past year that the digital license cannot be used for voting purposes. You still need your hard license, and Commissioner just pointed out as well, you know, always still bring your hard copy with you because you may go somewhere that they don't accept the digital one.
Representative Reeves.
And some folks have raised concerns about where Tennesseans' information is stored and who's got access to it. So could you walk us through what personal data is actually collected, how long it's retained, and whether any location is information is logged, and what safeguards there are to protect privacy?
Absolutely. So again, part of that bill that you all passed in this body this past spring puts a lot of those safeguards into place. There is a very robust security provision that mandates that anyone accepting a digital license, anyone contracting with our department to offer it, they are not allowed to keep, redisclose, sell, or otherwise distribute that data. We're in the contracting process right now. We're working with STS and their general counsel and STS team, getting all of those things worked out to make sure our top priority is that your data is secure. And so there is no direct interface with our system. So if you're someone who doesn't want a mobile license, no one's ever going to get your information just because you're not doing it. And so I want to make that really clear as well. And you all included provisions in the bill that restrict biometric data capturing. And so the only way that biometric data can be captured is that initial time when you have to, take that live photo of your face so they can confirm it's you and not one of your kids trying to download your license on their device. And so there's an explicit ban on geolocation as well. They cannot geotag, so they cannot track where you are with it. And so we, in consultation with you all, really put those standards into place based on what we've seen in other states. And we're very confident around the security of what the digital license is going to look like.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Next on the list, Chairman Williams, you're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Ms. Trucker. I will say, we talked about no one could require you to do it, but can a business require someone to use only a digital ID?
No, sir.
Okay. I had a question really about SROs. Obviously, this body and your department has been very particular about trying to improve school safety by providing an SRO, the ability for every school in the state to have an SRO. We did that by fully funding those 3 years ago. And over the years, I've noticed that there's been a little bit of a change in those. We did see a small decrease in the number of participants. Wondered if you could share with us why you saw a decrease. For instance, in my community, we would expect, based upon the expenditure or the monies appropriated, that number would continue to go up. And of course, we know that some places may not be able to afford to do that, or they're choosing not to do that. But that number going down was a little bit curious to me. I think it went down 8 or 9 folks across the state. Could you tell me why that is? And also, could you tell me, are there any jurisdictions that wholesale have said, or any areas that wholesale have said, no, we don't want these state dollars, and they're not applying for the grants?
Director Mays, you're recognized.
Thank you for the question. Greg Mays, I'm the Deputy Commissioner for Homeland Security. We did see a slight decrease from FY 24 to FY 25. It was 10 schools covered. We don't think that's indicative of a downward trend. In fact, for FY 26, we're seeing the numbers go up from, I think, 1,368 and 25. We're looking at somewhere around 1,437 for this next year. So it is trending up. Why did it go down 9 or 10 schools? The best we can attribute that to is SRO retirements and difficulty at the local level finding a replacement. We don't think that slight downward tick is anything to indicate it's a downward trend. We're adding a new county next year. Haywood County, that had previously not participated, is now on board. Your second question that was, were there any jurisdictions that wholesale do not participate? No, sir, I don't think so. We do have several jurisdictions that do not fully participate. And again, what we're hearing anecdotally just from our contacts is it's just because that they can't find enough officers to hire. So why ask for a lot of money up front that they'll just have to turn around and give back to us at the end of the year? So my view is that as law enforcement employment stabilizes and we bring more people on board, it will continue to grow the number of schools that we cover.
So for instance, like, let's just take Nashville because we're in Nashville, but does Nashville fully utilize the SRO grant system for all of its schools in Nashville? I know in Putnam County we do. I just wondered if Nashville did.
Sir, Davidson County has 167 eligible schools in FY25, and 31% of those were covered in the SRO program.
Okay, thank you. The reason why I asked this question is really important. Now we're kind of, outside the honeymoon period as it relates to the SRO program and the grants associated with that. But one of the challenges of going forward over the next 3 years is going to be areas where the state budget is only going to grow at a minimal rate. We have made this commitment to our communities across the state to give them the assistance that they need. In this instance, we're reverting about $35 to $40 million back to the general fund for these funds that are on a recurring basis. I guess my question would be, do you feel like that given an increase from what you said, 1368 to maybe 1400, that the balance between 1400 and more, it would be, it seems to me like it would be in our fiduciary interest to not appropriate those funds if they're not going to be utilized so that we can do that.
Yeah, that's, I would say, a judgment call. My view is that the biggest reason that we revert so much money back is there are several jurisdictions that, like Davidson County, which I just highlighted, that are only funding some of their eligible schools.
Mm-hmm.
The concern I have is that they will want to fund more and more schools, and then if the money's not there, how would they get the SROs? If they, for example, if Davidson County decided next year to have an SRO in 60% of their schools, but we are only funding the 31% of their schools.
Yeah, I think wholesale change and maybe a leadership determination would only see a 30% increase year over year. You might have a particular school that was concerned about safety because of an event that might want to add those, which would be the reason to say, okay, we'll do it 1,400. Know that we had 10% growth in there in case some entities wanted to add it. Of course, the Department of Safety could come back to us at any time and say, hey, listen, we had 5 requests last year that we weren't able to fill. We'd like to take those monies back. So it's just one of those things as we go forward, we're going to have to be more frugal with the dollars that we do have. And if those dollars are being underutilized, even though appropriated, I think it's in our best interest in order to do that. I did have one other question about the SROs. Have you seen that the dollar number that we're giving to those local communities? I know, for instance, in my district, there's a per SRO pool, if you might will. And of course, the Putnam County Sheriff's Office might not ask for the entire amount. My question is, have you seen that the amount set aside is sufficient for the request that you're currently getting, or is it undervalued per SRO?
Thank you for that question, and it's a good one. But the answer is it depends on where you are in the state. It's $75,000 per SRO per school.
Mm-hmm.
In some locations, that's not enough money to fund an SRO, a car, all the equipment that they use. In other locations, that is enough.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't heard a lot of complaints so much about the exact dollar amount of the funding. The most common issue that I hear about the SRO grant in general, about ways to tweak it, have to do with requests for multiple SROs at a school. Say you have a very large school with 1,000 or 1,500 students. The sheriff may want to put 2 SROs there, but we only fund one SRO, $75,000 per school. So I'm not sure how that $75,000 figure was reached, but it seems to work pretty well. Commissioner may have more since he was a sheriff and can focus in more, but I think we're in the neighborhood.
Okay. Does the department retain any administrative fees as it relates to the distribution of those funds?
No,
Okay.
sir.
No.
Okay. Thank you. Chairman, that's it.
All right, thank you, Chairman. Next on the list, Chairman Crawford, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here with us today, guys. Commissioner, I want to go back to the Tennessee Advanced Communication Network that you were speaking of earlier. First thing is the investment of support and the amount of people that have issued the radios to or something. I heard 470, or what was that number?
We've reappropriated approximately 2,000 radios to the distressed and at-risk counties.
Okay.
We have 78,466 users, which are from 167 agencies so far.
Okay, thank you very much. That's what I was looking for. Let's talk about the timeline. When do you think we will be completely up and going, everything done? Do you have any projection for that?
Yes, sir. As I stated earlier, we have worked with Motorola. It was an extended period of time for the contract. We've reduced it from 8 years, I believe it was, down to 4 years. It supposedly is going to be built out totally within 4 years. And that includes 100, I'd have to look at the number, over 100 and something more towers to be built across the state. And that's what honestly takes some of the time, is the contracts for the property to put the towers on. If we are able to partner with a county or local agency that'll let us use their property, it doesn't take any time at all. But if we have to purchase the property and go out, then it takes a little bit more time for General Services to do a contract and get that property.
And by working that out with Motorola from the 8 years to the 4 years, I assume we're still on budget and all that.
We are on budget, actually probably a little bit below budget so far, and hoping to save you some money by reducing it from an 8 year to a 4 year and blocking it in at today's prices rather than future prices. We're hoping to be able to save the legislature money.
Thank you. Next question I have is when you get the build out done and all of our officers have received that, is there any discussion to allow like volunteer fire departments or emergency service personnel to be able to use the same system and be able to communicate back and forth?
That will be allowed. And matter of fact, we now are placing them in the emergency ambulance services. We're an ambulance service. We know we're saving lives because they're able to talk on the radio in the ambulance now to a trauma center and not have to wait till they get to the city limits of a major city with a trauma center to be able to talk to that doctor, surgeon, whatever. We're already saving lives by being able to do that.
So we can go back home and tell our constituents that this project right here will make Tennessee safer.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. Next on the list, Representative Gann, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioner, and your staff and team that you've got here today. Appreciate y'all being here. And Chairman, if I can go back and forth with several questions.
Please, absolutely.
Okay. From fiscal year 20 to fiscal year 26, the number of troopers increased from 934 to 1,429, while state appropriations for the Highway Patrol increased from 107 million to approximately 278 million, which is about a 160% increase. What is the department's ultimate goal for the total trooper positions statewide?
They're controlling it. They're controlling it.
Colonel Perry, you're recognized, sir.
Thanks, Chairman. Colonel Matt Perry, Tennessee Highway Patrol. We had a little typo on I think the document we sent you. We're at 1,340 is our actual number. We've grown by just over 400. Yes, sir. So the total number that we've calculated is 1,600. Now that's at we use a couple of different national sort of formulas for allocating manpower and needs assessment, but 1,600 is kind of a minimum number. It doesn't mean we're going to ask to get to that number. I'm just telling you that's the number that we think would minimally prepare us for the vehicle miles traveled in Tennessee, the population and growth, the licensed drivers, registered vehicles, all the things, plus some of the new things we've taken on. You know, we've done almost 160,000 school checks since 2022. So troopers every day are going, when their school in session, are going by schools, and just because we know it's the first line of defense, just being present is our way, the Highway Patrol's way to help deter a violent act. And so troopers every day in every county are stopping by schools. That's something when we started asking for positions was not on our radar, certainly not to the way it is. So 1,600 is a number, and it's the numbers that the 400 additional troopers, we're down 124 fatal crashes last year. We're down 131 today. Like Commissioner said, if we end the year like we've been going, and we're going to have a historical year, and y'all know this. We don't typically have 2 years in a row down. I mean, we have a good year of fatal crashes. We have a bad year, or an up and a down year. We're this is and we had a down year, and then last year I told you down 124. The year before that we were up about 10, which is, I mean, it's still terrible, but it's negligible in terms of percentage. So we're really looking at our third and fourth good year in a row, because usually we might be down 80, then we're up 80 the next year. We're working the right direction. It's really simple math. Troopers stopping cars, as Chairman said, in Memphis, it makes a difference. It makes a difference across the state of Tennessee. Stopping cars makes everybody go, oh crap, troopers are out working today. I better slow down. I better put my seatbelt on. I better be more conscious. But you still see it. Since 2020, driving behavior is still bad. Impaired driving crashes and fatalities are up. So there's still a lot of work for us to do.
Well, that was a later question, so you just answered that one. So the presentation obviously highlighted the capital projects initiated by THP since fiscal year 20. Are your projects on time and on budget for completion?
They are on time. I probably shouldn't speak for general services. Budget is complicated with construction, supplies, materials, costs always fluctuating. When you approve us building one of our new district headquarters, then it takes time to acquire. Every place we're acquiring the property, and so those costs, I can't speak 100%. I know it's a long answer to
Sure.
budget, but
Sure.
they're on time. Every headquarters is slated to be, everyone left is slated to be rebuilt. And those are, the newest headquarters built in the early 80s. The rest are, 50s, 60s. So.
Okay. Several initiatives were aimed at increasing the number of troopers in Shelby County, including recurring salary incentives. Have these initiatives been successful in increasing the trooper presence there in Shelby County?
They've been incredibly successful. I mean, we have troopers, for those in East Tennessee, we have troopers transferring from Knox. I think we've had 4 in the last year transfer, just young troopers that don't have any real ties and have transferred to Shelby County. 1, they want to work hard, and 2, the pay incentive. So we've gone from 8 troopers in probably 2019 to 75 positions now, and we're filling them, and we're making a difference. I mean, it's really simple. We're making a huge difference.
Okay. All right. I want to shift gears back to impaired driving, and then I'm done. You obviously just mentioned that impaired driving incidents and fatalities are on the rise, and in your professional approach to this, as you see it playing out across our state, what is it that we're not doing that we need to do a better job of that will help you guys in the role that you play in that?
Well, I appreciate that question. I think you're actually this body is doing what it takes. And unfortunately, it's just more position. There's a lot of education and things that can be done. But from a highway patrol perspective, we've got to go stop cars and do our best to remove impaired drivers. Obviously, there's been a lot of media criticism, but our goal is to get every impaired driver on the road. There's no quota, all of them, everyone. And we can't, we have to do the best job on the side of the road of trying to remove somebody that's impaired. And in some cases, those are close, but close people are sometimes the most dangerous, you've seen it, the buzz driver, the person that's right on the borderline, the really crazy impaired people usually can't get down the road. The people that are borderline can drive a long ways before they end up causing a crash that ends up killing someone or themselves. And so our goal is to get all of them. And the good news is the court system, the whole process, judicial system works. If somebody comes back and we don't have enough evidence to prove it, they're found not guilty in court, and we did our part that day. There's no trooper out there that's taking people to jail that they don't believe are impaired.
Right. Last question, Mr. Chairman. The repeat offenders that you guys see out there, the second, third, fourth, fifth, and sometimes 6 and 7 repeat DUI offenders. The legislation that we've passed in the last couple of sessions, I hope will deal with that. Do you see these fatalities that are occurring involving DUI drivers of multiple offenses of a DUI?
I'm sure the answer is yes. I don't know that, Chairman, off the top of my head, but we'll come back with that. We'll get the answer to that. I'm sure there are some that involve multiple offenses by the same person, and the legislation I think will start to work over time. I mean, that's how people learn is mistakes and punishment.
Right. Okay. Great job. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Next on the list, Chairman Halsey, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for being here. And Commissioner, you got excellent staff that work for you, and keeping up with that trend, you put on Mr. Baird back there, and that was a good thing to do.
Very proud of all of them.
In the latest report that I can see, the wait times are decreasing for CDL issuance of licenses. In the last 6 years, the actual licenses issued went down 6,000. That's about 1,000 a year. This is the first question. What do you attribute that to? And the second question, I'm not a big fan of the federal motor carrier people, never have been. But you have people driving tractor trailers 80,000 pounds through the state of Tennessee who can't read or write. They can't read English. They can't understand English. What do you think is a proper thing to begin to look at to try and fix that or curb that or change that?
Were you answering that? Were you answering?
Russell Shoup, Assistant Commissioner for Driver Services. Related to your first question, we have seen a downtick in the number of drivers wanting CDLs. I would just be speculating as to what that cause is. We would need to reach out probably to our truck driver associations in our industry to kind of see what's driving that factor. And then as to the second question, what Elizabeth covered.
Yeah, and I think anecdotally, and I don't see the chairs of transportation on here, but I think that there just aren't as many people entering the industry. There are jobs they can get that don't require them to be on the road and things like that. But we can get with the Trucking Association and get you some more details on it. For your second question, so the federal law, the federal regulation around CDLs, when it comes to English speaking or limited English speaking drivers, it is mandated that you have to be able to speak and understand English in order to get a CDL license. That is in the federal regs. President Trump and FMCSA reiterated that back in, I think it was May or June that we received that guidance that, hey, this is something you can put someone out of service for now. This is what you need to look for. We're not going to tolerate this. And that really stems from the federal regulation actually mandates that all CDL tests be done in English. You cannot offer a CDL test in another language. And so if someone were to stop someone and believes that they don't meet that federal requirement of being able to read or understand English, they do have that option of putting that driver out of service.
That's good to know. Somebody from a license from Mexico, let's say. It's been a while since I've been in this business, but is that honored in this country so long as you can speak English? or read
Are
English.
you talking specifically about a CDL?
Yeah, well, I don't even know what Mexico has, but I know there's a whole lot of folks come across the border driving tractor
Mhm.
trailers.
So how the compact works is long, and it's a little bit difficult. So I'm just going to give like a broad without getting into the weeds. How the compact works is that if someone is just simply, and this goes for Mexico or Canada, if they are just simply coming into the country to deliver something, they obviously don't have to get a CDL for whatever state they are going to. But if someone were to be actually making runs within the country, so if someone were, driving from Memphis to Chattanooga on a regular basis, and not just delivering something from Canada or Mexico, they would have to get a CDL at that point. So it is pretty strict around, you can't just have a CDL from Canada or Mexico and be able to just drive freely within the country.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Next on the list is Chairman Boyd. You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioner and team. It's great to see you today.
Good to see
Appreciate
you.
y'all coming out.
Thank you.
Quick question. A few years ago, we had a pretty big expansion of the Homeland Security program. The governor wanted to try to get an agent in every county in the state. And I was just curious, do those agents get pay raises on par with the way the state troopers get them, or how is that done? Can you speak to that?
I will begin, and then Commissioner Mays want to add. Thank you, first of all, for the funding for those agents, because they've made a huge difference across this state. We began a beginning salary for those agents, and we never did figure in any kind of increase to bring them along as time goes along. There will be some proposals, I think, in the future to try to bring them up to current day standard. The troopers get a comparison study pay raise every year. The agents do not get any of that.
Okay, thank you for bringing that to for everyone's attention, and hopefully in maybe the next budget cycle we can address that and either get it indexed or try to find some funding to get them the raises that they need. I think their job's pretty important. Thank you.
I would love also, while you're on that topic, I wish, and we'll try to do this some way, to get you the employment sort of years of experience of personnel that we're hiring. I have been in it 52 years. I'm even amazed at the quality of personnel that we're hiring as Homeland Security agents who have had experience across the whole United States that are moving to Tennessee and wanting to come to work here. And the quality of personnel we got and the experience that we got is first rate. I'm really proud of that.
All right, thank you. Next on the list, Chairman Vaughn. You are recognized.
Ciao, 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 Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Buonasera to, I'm sorry, I need to switch back to English. I've been speaking Italian for too long here. This hasn't got anything to do with the budget, but Commissioner and Colonel, I want to tell you that I've never seen anything raise the morale of law-abiding people in Shelby County as the increase in the black and tans driving on Memphis City streets. And so I've received more compliments from that with any state service. And as a result, I took personal credit for that. And so if y'all would back me up and let people know that Kevin Vaughn helped get those people here, I'd certainly appreciate it. And then as an aside, this morning, I had an occasion to one of your young troopers introduce themselves to me around exit 99. I want to report a professional and courteous encounter. And as you say, traffic stops do slow traffic. So anyway, I want to let you know that your folks are on the streets. They are doing well, and we certainly do appreciate them.
Thank you.
All right, Representative Sparks, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Kind of hard to follow Commissioner Chairman Vaughn there. I want to ask you about road rage incidents. You know, we've had 2 people murdered in my district, Smyrna, right there. I think they caught one of them, and I heard that maybe he's contributed to some other shootings in that area. I shared earlier with the other department, I've been driving to Nashville from Laverne, Smyrna, giving this nurse a ride to Una, and I'd done an interview about the crime up there with Channel 4, and I was at the car wash at Una. Y'all know where some of that is right there, and I was doing it a Zoom call, and I was telling the reporter, if you don't believe this area is getting dangerous, send a reporter out here. Just let your cameras roll. Laverne, to Una. And 5 days later, a police officer got beat up right there at that car wash. 5 days later, a female cop got beat up. Luckily, some bystanders jumped in and took care of it. You know, stop over at the fitness center. There was 5 cars broke into. You could see the glass windows just laying there. Liquor store, somebody tried to rob him. I think he ended up killing the 2 perpetrators right there. You're seeing people drive in the center lane, Commissioner. Total disregard for public safety, total disregard for school buses. Someone was doing donuts in the center of the road over there at their Nashboro Village. Motorcycles up and down the road, no license, no tags. Sometimes they do wear a helmet, but I've never seen this kind of stuff. And I often think the Lord had me purposely give her a ride, so I witnessed this all summer and in the fall. Her car kept breaking down, and shout out to Mechanics on a Mission who gave her a car, Commissioner. They gave her a car. It's a nonprofit. But what are we doing as far as communicating? And I had requested some troopers in that area, and I appreciate it, Commissioner, y'all having some folks out there. What else is being done to coordinate improvement on public safety with Metro? Because you never see Metro. I'm just being honest. And I said earlier, call 862-8600. You don't get them on the phone. You won't get them on the phone. What is being done to just really clamp down on that whole corridor? Because I don't think the National Guard needs to come into Nashville yet. But if the rest of Nashville is like this, then we need National Guard, because it's getting terrible through that district. But what is being done as far as coordination to improve public safety?
Matt's going.
Colonel Perry.
Thank you, Chairman. So, and we have a great working relationship with National Metropolitan Police Department, and have for a long time. But they have a street racing task force. We assist in that. They're routinely doing operations. Now I know they move around town. They're not always in that corridor, but I'm very familiar with that corridor. I spent some time living in Nashboro Village with my father. We work with them routinely. Our aviation, they use their aviation. We work missions. I don't know the exact breakdown. I'll get you some of those numbers, but I think they're working, and I don't want to speak to where they are and aren't. For us, it's just a simple, we're trying to be everywhere all the time, doing everything. And just like in Memphis and Knoxville and Chattanooga and every other community in the state, it really just takes more of, there's not much you can do other than being present, as Representative Vaughn said.
Well, speaking of being present, how low are Metro on officers? Do you know? Anybody have that number?
I don't have that number.
Well, they're not on Murfreesboro Road, I can promise you. So thank you, Chairman.
All right, thank you. Next on the list.
Mr. Chairman, can I?
Chairman.
Can I?
I'm sorry. Yes, Commissioner, you're recognized. Sorry.
Representative Sparks, also, there was a bill, I think last session maybe, that talked about street racing, and we had a study of law enforcement agencies across the state and have made that recommendation to the legislature for maybe some hope on trying to help part of that. Also, we are in a partnership with Rutherford County, in particular on I-24 on traffic safety, and probably is one of the most successful across the state. So partnerships work. If we can get those partnerships, we, along with the agencies in Rutherford and Murfreesboro and all of that area, I know on I-24, very concentrated on traffic in that area in particular.
Thank you. Chairman Hawk, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. And I was going to go down the road of racing as well. I know that Representative Gillespie has worked a lot in that space, and we do appreciate any feedback you can give us in terms of legislation that's needed. I don't know if it was discussed a few moments ago. My legislative assistant, she was taking her son to baseball practice in Rutherford County, and there were 2 motorcycles in and out of traffic and over 100 miles an hour, and they're no longer with us. And that's such a tragedy that I would like to see us stop. As we're talking about, impaired drivers are still a problem. I think that drag racing is still a problem. We're cutting down on some of the, and I don't want to call it a speeding instance simple, but some of those more easily addressed issues, but the impaired driving, the drag racing are still a huge problem. So we welcome any thoughts and any ideas that you have. I do want to go down the road of Ms. Stroker, congratulations on your promotion. We're proud. Commissioner Long, congratulations on seeing the value there.
Thank you.
In that vein, Ms. Stroker, if you would introduce us to the committee to, and I've been noticing as we're talking, they're taking copious notes with both their
Good,
left hands.
good.
We have two left-handers out there. If you could introduce our new legislative liaisons to us.
Yeah, and I want to apologize. I texted you earlier. I said I don't see anyone from the Transportation Committee in here, and the chairman is literally in front of me. So, so sorry about that. Yeah, so we have Graham Tudor, who's our legislative director, who is joining us from Commerce and Insurance. He started back in July, I believe. And then Chairman Doggett's not in here, but we were lucky enough to get permission to steal Ryan Baird from Criminal Committee Research. And so he joined us in August. And so we're very happy to have them. I'm still around, but please flood them with all of your things. Let them learn and get acquainted with our subject matters.
Thank you. Next on the list, Chairman Williams.
Thank you. Chairman Vaughn's comments about what's happening in Memphis really are pretty amazing, but we see reports a lot about the coordination between your department, the other departments, both federal and state departments. One of the statistics, however, that I see in reports of what's going on there, things we expected were arrests or detainments and those kinds of things. But one of the things the statistics that really take your breath away for me as a parent is that you're finding children that are lost. I wondered if you could share with the committee really, one of the biggest challenges or hurdles that we had in COVID is there was a period of time where there were 10,000 students that didn't return to school. And so in my mind's eye, a lot of times I'm thinking that these kids that we're finding are maybe students that ran away, and their parents didn't know where they were, or do we expect that what percentage of these are children that crossed the border, are children that were missing from the Memphis area, or were being trafficked? I wondered if you could share with the committee really what we're finding in the early weeks of that.
Colonel Perry, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman Williams, for the question. Yeah, it's been pretty amazing. I don't think when we started, we thought we would deal, and it's a lot of juveniles. I wouldn't say any, really small children, but teenage. And I think the majority, I'm giving you anecdotal. I've read some of the, most of them are runaways, or, some of them are fleeing bad situations. So it's complicated, but it's approaching 100. In the short time that we've been doing this operation. So I think we're doing good work, and we're trying to get the resources. That's part of this too, is getting them the resources they need to thrive.
Anything we can do to help reunite families, obviously is something that we want to do. As a parent, I can't imagine what it'd be like to have a child go missing, but I appreciate the work that you guys are doing together there. And if we can assist in these families getting the resources they need, it's definitely a duty that we have to do. So thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chairman Gillespie, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to follow up again on some of the conversation earlier about drag racing and reckless driving, I do have legislation forthcoming that was filed earlier today that upon working with y'all, I believe it was Representative Sparks that had the legislation to create the task force that was convened last year. We are doing that, and I've been looking at some of the past performances of what it's costing in the incarceration aspect of those felony charges being on drag racers, and that the legislation that I'm presenting is going to significantly enhance that. And I just want to make sure that, since we're talking about past budgets here, that y'all feel confident with the amount of staffing and resources, stepping up that level of enforcement, not just with drag racing, but reckless driving, and the requirement of instead of a citation being issued, that an arrest would be made. So I don't know if you want to touch on that right now, but just looking forward into the future and what y'all are already doing with the funding that y'all have, if you could just address that.
Colonel Perry.
Thank you, Chairman Gillespie, for the question. I can't speak specifically to funding, but I can say just, anecdotally, not even a couple of people in my trips to Memphis in the recent weeks are saying, I didn't let my teenager drive on the interstate. I didn't let my wife, husband, significant other drive on the interstate, and I do now. So just what we're doing, the bills that are currently, the law that's currently in place, but troopers stopping cars and being out there. I mean, it takes longer to get to where you're going to Memphis. I'll say that, but that's a good thing. We're making a difference.
Chairman Gillespie,
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Long.
can I add, please? Chairman Gillespie, you may want to also look at fleeing on maybe adding that to, we're seeing, especially Metro has reported, a large number of pursuits that they're doing on people who they pursue 4 and 5 times and trying to increase punishment on individuals who have chosen to run from the law numerous times, even looking at maybe starting the license plate system some way where it records so another community will know that that individual was just in a pursuit a few minutes ago. So I would ask you to also look at that, if you will, please, in your legislation.
Chairman Gillespie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I would love to work with your team on that. If y'all could, whoever's listening, to touch base on me with that next week.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. I have no one else on the list. Thank you very much for your thorough presentation. Leader Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I don't know how many more budget hearings we'll have the commissioner for in his current role, but after 52 years, I just want to say thank you. You've been a dear friend for a long time. Thank you. There's always a chance to bridge the gap to the next administration, Commissioner.
It's my honor to get to do what I get to do. Thank you all for your support and thank you for everything.
All right, thank you, Commissioner, for you and your staff for not only being here today, but certainly for what you do for the great state of Tennessee. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to our next group of presenters. It will be the Department of Education with Commissioner Reynolds. So hopefully they are outside the doors and ready to come in and begin the presentation.
That's not factored into that number. No, I don't. No, I don't want it. But that's
So Commissioner, welcome. Certainly good to see you and your team. We will, just a couple of just side notes here, we will actually control your microphone, so you don't have to worry about that. If you'll just be sure to be recognized, and then your light will come on and you'll be ready to proceed. If you would, please begin by introducing yourself and the staff that you have with you, but thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having us. Do we have our slides up? Well, I'll go ahead and get introductions started. So good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to speak about the great work that's been happening over the past 6 years here in Tennessee. My name is Lizette Reynolds, and I'm Commissioner of Education for the state of Tennessee. Joining me are my colleagues, Sam Piercy, Marianne Dursky, Sam Piercy, Deputy Commissioner, Marianne Dursky, Chief Financial Officer, Jonathan Criswell, Chief of Programs, and Christy Brown, Chief Academic Officer. We want to start this conversation by discussing how things have shifted since 2020 due to the investments made by Governor Lee and you, the General Assembly. These are investments you should be proud of, as each dollar represents your commitment to the future of our Tennessee classrooms, including our educators, our students, and our families. And while we will be highlighting celebrations, we also want to acknowledge that there's still work to do. But thanks to the hard work your school district and charter school leaders have done across this great state, the work is both ongoing and achievable. First slide. First and foremost, since 2020, Tennessee students have made meaningful gains in literacy and math. And when I say meaningful, I mean that while students reaching levels of proficiency in all content areas has been slow and steady, it is even more important to note that the number of students that are below expectations are at the lowest it's ever been. And due to your financial support, school districts and charter schools are rising to the challenge of ensuring that the future of our students includes reaching their fullest potential as educated, civic-minded, and workforce-ready adults. You have invested in our educators, setting them up to be champions of student learning and success. Without them and without their service to our students and families, we would not be where we are today. And while this work will never stop, there will always be challenges to tackle and hurdles to jump. The opportunities you have provided to all of our students, regardless of their personal circumstances, their socioeconomic status, or where they live, are real. This slide represents our then and now, providing an important lens into the value of the progress of those investments you and Governor Lee have made to date. Coming into 2020, students ranked in the top 25 of all states on the 2019 National Assessment of Educational Progress, or NAEP, in grade 4 math. However, in 2024, Tennessee students ranked in the top 25 in both grades 4 and 8 in both reading and in math. It's an incredible achievement given that, unlike some other states, Tennessee's cut scores on its assessments track tightly with what we consider the gold standard for understanding student progress in our great country. And while we still have some states at the top of the ranking, our southern states, especially in the Southeast, are fast gaining traction on those states, which have student populations that are a lot more homogeneous than ours. On the next slide, I will dive more into the specifics of those investments, but let's hit the highlights first. First, since 2020, we have seen an increase in recurring state funds of $2.3 billion, over $1.2 billion in one-time state investments, a steady federal investment of $1.3 billion annually, and a $3.9 billion in one-time federal COVID relief funds. Next slide. This slide delves more deeply into the highlights of the state dollar investments. Just please note that these numbers exclude our administratively attached entities. As mentioned earlier, you and Governor Lee have added over $2 billion in state recurring dollars to the state's funding formula, which includes $578 million in educator salary increases, over $150 million to support school choice, and over $100 million to support specific academic, career, and military readiness initiatives. And in addition to these recurring dollars, you have also championed several impactful one-time investments, including supporting innovative education to workforce pathways, providing an additional bonus payment to all our teachers, and critically funding over $100 million in school safety initiatives to protect our students and our teachers so that they can focus on learning and instruction. However, the most important theme of these investments is that these dollars go straight into the communities that you all serve. As exemplified by our fiscal year 26 budget, 98.67% of funds you appropriated go directly to our schools, our families, and our education partners, all of whom have contributed to the direct benefit of our students. So in addition to the over $2 billion in recurring dollars to our state's funding formula, I'd like to call out some specific state recurring dollar investments which represent your sustaining commitment to education in this state. These include, but are not limited to, as you see from the slide, summer programming, paid parental leave, growing our educator pipeline, and ensuring our educators have a clear window into the academic reading skills of our early elementary students through the universal funding, through the universal reading screener. On the non-recurring side, you and Governor Lee have invested in $529 million for innovative school models, $198 million for teacher bonuses, 86 million in charter school facilities, and over $58 million in partner organizations like the Ayers Foundation, the Niswonger Foundation, Teach for America, the Star Academy in West Tennessee, and JAG in our rural communities. Next slide. This last slide highlights the federal investments, including a one-time $3.9 billion infusion of COVID relief dollars, which hit our state amidst a pandemic. But two significant outcomes emerged as a result. First, our state and our district and charter school leaders planned well, spending the federal dollars with the goal of implementing and sustaining initiatives most important to the parents of our students, ensuring that our students can read, they can write, they can do math, and that they are prepared for life after high school. Second, you, our General Assembly and Governor Lee, kept your investment focused on education. Not all states can say that, as evident by the fact that Tennessee has garnered national recognition for how we spent those funds. As this slide shows, Tennessee receives 4 important recurring federal grants: ESEA, IDEA, Perkins, and the School Lunch Program. Altogether, these grants account for about $1.3 billion annually, which is about 9.5% of the recurring education dollars spent in the state each year. And with respect to the one-time COVID relief dollars, of the nearly $4 billion provided to the state through GEER and ESSER grants, 90% flowed directly to school districts to do 3 things: stabilize the education system as schools reopened, support student remediation due to the shutdown, and finally, accelerate student learning after the pandemic. If the General Assembly had not acted so decisively to maintain the state's investment in education, this acceleration would not have been possible, and it is demonstrated in our results. So in breaking down the COVID dollars, you and Governor Lee directed funding to many of the initiatives you see on this screen. Most noteworthy are $184 million for academics, including $83 million for Tennessee All-Court Tutoring Grants, grants that are wildly popular with our school districts. $75 million on literacy training, family resources, and professional networks, and $16 million for math implementation supports. You also had $90 million to support college, career, and military readiness initiatives, including an additional $63 million, for the Innovative School Models Program, and $12 million for computer science and STEM innovation grants. You also allowed for $30 million to support the educator pipeline, including the initial first in the country Grow Your Own program, and then an educator preparation program, innovation and educator development program. And finally, $40 million to support districts and schools in reopening and in grant administration. Most critically, district and charter planning and monitoring supports, amongst these others. Thank you. That concludes our testimony. We're happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right, Commissioner, thank you very much for your presentation. We do have several folks that are on the list to ask a couple questions. We will begin with Chairman Vaughn. Chairman Vaughn, you're recognized.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll stick all to English this time, or as close to English as I can speak. Thanks for being here, Commissioner, and as a former school board member, I can tell you that your number one job is to get as many kids home as left for school that day. So school safety has never left the minds of this General Assembly. And my colleague from Putnam County asked a question of the Department of Safety in their testimony earlier about school resource officers. And they addressed the fact that out of $140 million that we had budgeted, that only 102 was drawn down this past fiscal year. They said they saw an increase projecting coming up. But from y'all's perspective, what type of feedback are you receiving in your department from LEAs talking about any difficulty in them, those who want them, in them being able to procure SROs, whether it be, are there difficulties with local law enforcement? Is there a difficulty with the labor pool? Is there difficulty with regards to the type of work it is? Can y'all address that? Because they gave us responses from the law enforcement perspective, but it's something that we'd be curious to hear from an educator perspective, what you think about school safety and the funded SRO positions.
So again, another program that is very popular with our school districts, but I'd like to ask Lori Paisley, our Assistant Commissioner for Coordinated School Health, if she can provide more substantive feedback from the school districts as she works on this in her division.
Hello, I'm Lori Paisley, Assistant Commissioner of the Coordinated School Health Division, in which the school safety team lives. I think a lot of what you said that school safety, the Department of Safety shared, but I think it varies from district to district, and working with those specific local law enforcement. We have a great partnership on training new SROs and are hearing positive feedback on that. But I think there are times where you mentioned procuring those positions and the people that apply. It's a local issue that varies from district to district with law enforcement.
Mr. Chairman? Follow-up?
Yes, sir. Chairman Vaughn.
So what I'm curious about is government getting in the way? Or is it an overly regulated situation to where are there problems that we can address? Or is it simply a labor pool workforce environment that's typical with anywhere? Or is there some type of bureaucracy in the way that this body could help clear the way so that we make sure that every school system that has a need for an SRO in a facility has the opportunity to get that? And, you know, I can know sometimes MOUs can be messy things, but I think what I'm hearing is a positive reaction from the education committee or from the education side of the coin that things are going about as well as could be expected. Is that, I hate to put words in your mouth, but would that be a fair boil down of the situation?
Yes, I would agree with you. And I think it's so important that SROs are in each of our school for safety, but we're also hearing a lot of positive feedback on just the relationships that they're building. And it gives our students another trusted adult that they can get to know while they're in the school day. And they're very supportive of their individual schools, getting involved in the school and just a part of the team there. So all positive feedback, but anything that we've heard about them not filling and meeting that capacity has been very local. And I think that you all can just support your local districts and local law enforcement in moving that along. And you mentioned MOUs, and it sounds like you think the same thing as I do. Sometimes it's a little bit harder than it should be, but that's the only thing that we've heard that slowed that down.
All righty. Thank you so much for the feedback. Mr. Chairman, I'm done.
Thank you, Chairman. Just kind of sticking in that vein of school safety. And so prior to TISA funding, of course, there were school safety grants. I know before TISA, there was about $20 million. And so I know there were times where that $20 million wouldn't even all get expended. And the reason why, to be honest with you, is because school districts would do all this work, turn in all this paperwork for all these needs, and then they wouldn't get anything. So really, they slowed down on some of their asks because it just wasn't worth it. So now, of course, that has changed. And so I hear all the time, and I don't hear it as much now because hopefully it's getting clear. But a lot of people think those school safety grants have went away. But that's not the case. It's just been incorporated into TISA. So can you just kind of talk about that and get that on the record so that folks know how the safety grant, how that procedure kind of works at this point? And Sam, you may want to take that one. Looks like 1:36. You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Sam Piercy, Deputy Commissioner. That is correct. So when we transitioned to the TISA funding formula, the school safety grants were folded into those formula dollars. So everyone was still receiving those same dollars that they did prior to the grant. It just came out through the TISA funding formula, giving districts even more flexibility in how they were leveraging those dollars to meet local needs. I will also note that since that time, this body has continued to invest additional one-time funding in school safety initiatives. And so those have continued to smatter throughout the years since our transition to TISA as well.
So talk about the administrative costs. So now that it's kind of baked into TISA, are there still administrative costs being taken out of those dollars for, so how does that work as far as administering the grants and the cost to do that, kind of the overhead, so to speak?
Yes, sir. Happy to speak to it, and I will defer to Lori on this some as well. In the original school safety funding that this body had appropriated, it called for a Tennessee School Safety Center that was housed at the department. And that team was charged with administering the safety grants, and that was a big part of their work, but also providing oversight and support to school districts in their safety planning efforts. So that technical assistance body of work still exists today. We actually just had a call with our colleagues over at Commerce and Insurance about using some of those funds to support additional training opportunities for SROs. So there is still work happening at the department, largely in collaboration. And I will just acknowledge that one thing that the Lee administration has instituted is a very cross-collaborative approach to school safety work with regular meetings with our sister agencies to make sure we're prioritizing and all on the same page with that work. If I may defer to Lori for any additional comments there.
Sure.
Yes, I think part of what I heard you say at the beginning is just it slowed down and they felt like they weren't getting things in place. And from what we've heard, that was a vendor and a supplier issue. And those in the past 6 months have gotten a lot better. So we feel like a lot of that work is able to move forward in a quicker pace.
Okay. So, and then I'll be finished and we'll move on. So looking at state grants regarding education, how common is that there's administrative costs for these grants? Just curious. And you, if you can give me some examples or maybe even give me a list of the state grants that there's administrative cost. It's actually taken out of that grant. That's interesting to me. So if you'd like to comment.
Sure, and happy to kind of pull together a list for you. I think there are certain grants that come with compliance oversight requirements. So as an example, our voluntary pre-K program folds under a much larger umbrella of early childhood education requirements. And so there are administrative functions that happen there. I think one of the things that I would call out is that each of those groups within the department, it's not just about administering the grant, but it's also about that technical assistance support to districts and helping to meet their needs, connect the dots with other agencies and that kind of body of work as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Next on the list, Chair Lady Moody, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome to our committee, and good to see you all. So my question is going to be around the free and reduced lunch program. And in particular, if you could walk us briefly through this program or the data collected and how and why it is impacting other funding received by the state from the feds. And I have a part two, Mr. Chairman.
Lori Pay, are you going to, you were going to respond to that?
Well, I thought Sam was going first, but I'm happy to follow up.
I see people coming up.
Thank you for the question. So let me speak quickly about the free and reduced price lunch program, and Lori, please add in and correct anywhere I misspeak on this. But then I think specifically to your question, where those numbers are used for other programs and where those influence points might happen. In the state nutrition program, you can be eligible for free lunch or reduced price lunch through a number of different avenues. We have our direct certification groups, which are attributable to other social service programs, such as SNAP, TANF. Medicaid is also in that as of the last 3 years, I believe. And then we have a group of categorically eligible students. So those include students who fall into categories like foster students, unaccompanied youth fall into that group, migrant, and the last one I'm going to, I apologize. We can get to that.
Yeah.
Pardon?
You said.
I got that one. Yeah. So all of those students automatically qualify to receive free lunch program. But districts also have the opportunity to administer free and reduced price lunch forms that we are probably all familiar with from some point in time. Over the last probably 15 years or so, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, who administers the program, implemented a community eligibility provision, which allowed school districts to clustered schools to kind of lock in their free and reduced price lunch rates for a period of time. That took a little bit of a paperwork burden and administrative burden off of our school districts, but also kind of provide some stability of access into funding over that course of time. Where these numbers matter, right? Those come into our school nutrition program, where the Department of Education uses that information elsewhere is in our accountability system and our funding formula. Those numbers only look at our direct certification counts. So those groups that we mentioned earlier. And that is where that was actually statutorily added even back under the BEP formula, I think back in 2017, to switch to using those numbers. The last piece that I will say is that we have been notified that there are other grants at other agencies that leverage federal USDA nutrition data. We have been looking closely with our partners at DHS about what that has looked like. A lot of it seems attributable to what happened at the end of the pandemic and the expiration of some federal waivers in those programs. I will readily admit I am not an expert in all of those programs, so I'll defer that to our colleagues at DHS. But those numbers kind of come in a cycle. We get our SNAP and TANF data from our partners at DHS and pass it along to our local nutrition partners. We do the same with TennCare data. And then that data then funnels back into some of those allocation formulas that you're referencing there. Sorry, that was a lot, but I apologize.
It's hard to keep up with.
It's a whirlwind. Yes, ma'am.
Did you have any more to add?
No, I think you did a great job. I don't have
I didn't
anything
want to leave
add.
you
I knew
out.
he would. Yes.
You were eager.
He was
so-
absolutely correct.
Okay. And could you discuss, and maybe this is partly how you answered that, direct certification and community eligibility and any changes that may have occurred at the state level? So some of those may be out of our control, but
Yes, ma'am. The only one I think I would note is the addition of the Medicaid eligibility to determine nutrition services for students. And that was a pilot program Tennessee signed up to participate in with the U.S. Department of Agriculture about 3 years ago.
okay. Thank you for making that a little bit clearer. It's very complicated. And I know when we had that task force looking into whether it's feasible to take federal aid for education. And that was very revealing in there that it's not just ag, it's the military, it's crazy. So anyway, that was an interesting dive. And I also want to thank you, Commissioner, for the shout out to the Star Academy in Haywood County. And our Superintendent, Amy Marsh, is knocking it out of the park with that program. It's a great one to go see. So thank you for mentioning them too. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Lady. Next on the list is Representative T. Hicks. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for that introduction. That's nice. Thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. The legislature as a whole and this body has made pretty large investments in the K through 12 Mental Health Trust Fund. And I want to talk about that and ask a few questions on that if I could. Can you just really provide an update of the landscape of where our mental health is, the behavioral health of our students, just sort of statewide, and how those investments are improving the lives of our students in public education?
I'll defer to Lori.
I'm glad I didn't go back to my seat. Thank you for the question. I think it's spot on because there's a lot going on with that. But the Mental Health Trust Fund has given a lot of our schools, and it continues to grow day to day. And that's something that we work really closely with our partners over at the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services, Commissioner Marie Williams and her team. But they've placed school-based behavioral health liaisons through that funding in our schools, not every one of them, but they are another member of the team that can give the school capacity to meet the students' needs, no matter what they are. With mental health in schools, as you all know, we have school counselors. We have more school social workers than we had back when I was in my district. And then now those school-based behavioral health liaisons are giving them more capacity to not only meet the student needs, but to meet the family's needs. So it's been very positive. I visited a school district up in Northeast Tennessee right around the end of the school year, and I got to meet one of those school-based behavioral health liaisons. And the school could not say enough positive things about her and the work that she's been able to do. They only said to me, when are we going to get a school-based behavioral health liaison for every one of our schools? And I just told them that I know Commissioner Williams is working on that. So it's really been positive, but we've seen an uptick in more behavioral issues with students in the classroom and those mental health issues that our students are facing that's a barrier to learning. And those school-based behavioral health liaisons has been a real positive and strengthening addition to the team at the school that can meet those needs.
Thank you. And so there is not a liaison in every single school. Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct. Not yet, but you can ask Commissioner Williams. She'll give you a new number every day where they're inching up to working toward that.
So we're working real hard on that.
Yes.
Okay. Last question. What about our staff and faculty? You know, there's a huge turnover rate and we're very concerned about that. And it's, a lot of it is on the mental health because of, you know, the way that some, the students act and such. So, you know, we're very concerned about that, the turnover of that. So what does that look like now in 2024 and 2025 compared to 2020 for our faculty and our staff?
Well, I think you're touching on something that we did see is after the pandemic, it was hard for our staff to get out and come to work, but we've made so many strides there. And one of the components of coordinated school health is staff wellness. So our coordinated school health staff in every district are working hard on staff wellness. I used to be a coordinated school health director in my district, and a lot of that work back then was just nutrition, physical activity, helping our staff how to lead healthy lifestyles. But after the pandemic, as you mentioned, that mental health piece came in, and coordinated school health is working toward all these initiatives, working with their district's benefit coordinator and those community health providers that Commissioner Marie Williams and her department work with to make sure that our staff have what they need and have the resources that they need.
Thank you. Chairman, can I have one more quick question? I need clarification on something.
You're recognized.
On the chart that you have that says then and now changes,
Yes.
I need a little clarification on the per pupil funding from 2020 to 2024, and it went from $10,047 to $13,658. So is that $13,658, is that a pretty accurate number on per pupil? What, is that an average of what they get through the TISA funding formula?
Oh.
Is it Mary Ann Dursky, Chief Financial Officer? That number is the statewide average of what has been spent per pupil. And so we compile expenditure data from all of our districts, and we calculate a per pupil by district, and then we calculate it per pupil. It is inclusive of state, local, and federal funds.
Okay. That I'm just trying to figure out, because like all summer long, I've got emails and it's been all over the media that public school funding and for each student is $7,075. And I've heard that all year long, and I'm just trying to clarify here exactly what that funding is, because, you know, school boards and teachers unions and such is really pushing that number a lot. So what you're saying is this is just an average. Whenever you add everything together, that's what the funding is, correct?
Yes, sir. And that 7,000 number is the base funding in the TISA formula, but that is only a part of the funding or the expenditures that are recognized by student.
So not many students just get the base funding formula, correct?
That's
Not
absolutely
many.
correct. I would venture none. There is local money over and above what is required. So students are receiving more than that.
Thank you for that answer. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Next on the list is Chairman Baum.
Thank you, Chairman Hicks. Commissioner, I remember when we were trying to figure out how we were going to fund the summer learning camps, we wanted to use some TANF funding. And then that was later disallowed, I guess, by the federal government, and we appealed that decision. Have you gotten any update on that appeal?
No, sir, we have not.
We're still trying, though. We'd still like to get a decision on the appeal.
Well, yeah, sure. Okay. I mean, yeah, I think we had pretty much written it off at this point, but yes, sir. You know,
We'd like a
we're still waiting for a response. So
Like a decision,
working
but we've
with
kind of given
DHS.
up.
Yes, sir.
And then last question, can you give us an update on the ARPA funding for the summer learning camps? I know at one point we were going to use that for the camps, and we've spent some of the money, but maybe not all of the money. Some of the money from ARPA is still yet to be spent on summer camps.
Yes, sir. This past summer, we utilized the last of the ARPA money that was designated for the summer camps. So as of the end of this past summer's camps, it has all been expended.
Okay, thank you all.
All right, thank you. Next on the list is Chairman Hogg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question doesn't have to do with agriculture or education, but Commissioner Reynolds, thank you very much. You came to Chucky Doak's FFA banquet earlier this year, and that really meant a lot to them to have you there, and just the importance of agriculture education across the state of Tennessee. Our state seal back here still has the words agriculture right to the middle of it, so thank you very much for that. I do want to talk a little bit about our Tennessee Investment in Student Achievement, the TISA formulas, formula growth and outcomes bonuses that we're seeing across the state. And I will just take this verbatim. TISA includes $80 million in state funding specifically for outcome bonuses for districts. Unspent TISA funding by law also rolls into the pool of funding for outcome bonuses, whereas unspent BEP funding reverted to the general fund in days gone by. At the close of fiscal year 24, Department of Education had $90 million in unspent TISA funding. In the 26 budget now, the budget initially included $164 million for TISA formula growth, but the administration amendment reduced this amount by almost $16 million as we got more solid data on the outcomes base. Several questions here, but since we've been fully operational with TISA since the 24 fiscal year, has the department gotten a good grasp on the funding growth that will be needed year over year through TISA? And how much of that money remains unspent as of now?
Sam.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. So one thing that I will note on the outcomes funding, you hit it spot on. The unused funds roll into the next year or available pots for additional outcomes. So we have actually paid out to districts higher than that $80 million in outcomes funding, because under the existing rules for outcome dollars, they've earned it. And so I just want to celebrate that, to say that we're actually awarding out more dollars in outcomes funding, tapping into that additional sort of carry forward pool that you have. I don't have the exact carry forward number with me. I'm happy to get that for you. One thing that I will note that you brought up is that we have been thoughtful about where that reduction comes into the ask, because we have sufficient carry forward funds to cover the outcomes pot for the next year. So that's why you kind of see that number come down a little bit in that update.
Chairman Hall.
And thank you for clarifying where that reduction came from. So thank you. Second question, outcome bonuses are dispersed based on student-generated outcome goals established by the department. What specific outcome goal generates the highest percentage of bonus? Also, which students saw the greatest outcome gains in the past year with those generated bonuses?
Recognize.
Thank you, sir. So happy to get you sort of a breakdown of where things landed. The outcomes are actually all funded at the same level. They are 10% of the base for your general education students and 20% of the base for some of our identified subgroup students. So in terms of their value at an individual level, they fall into one of those two categories. Happy to pull you some numbers on how many were generated in each of the categories over the last few years as well.
Chairman Hall.
And thank you. And you've answered my last question in the body of your other answers. So as typically is the process, if you could get those answers to our chairman and he'll disseminate that to the committee. So thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Next on the list is Leader Cochran.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Quick question on teacher salaries. So I know that in 2023, we passed that those need to be at $50,000. And so we've been gradually getting there. For the previous 3 years, the increase to the base salary has been about $2,500 per year. So, to get to that 50,000 mark, this next year, we need to increase that about 3,000. So far, what feedback have we heard from districts on their ability to adjust their salary schedule to meet the 50,000? So that's to anyone, but do we know, are we getting feedback from districts on as far as them meeting that pace to get to 50,000?
Ms. Durst.
Yes, sir. The districts have all been able to meet each year the new minimum. Many have exceeded it, and many are already at the $50,000 mark this year, although that isn't required until next year.
Thank you. And then any, I don't know if we have hard data or anecdotal data. Are districts able to retain teachers more with that increased minimum salary? Are we getting any feedback regarding that specifically?
I have not heard any feedback specifically about recruiting and retention. But we've actually put together a work group of directors of schools to really talk about what do we need to do with respect to retention, recruitment, and development of our teachers so that they can stay there. And part of that is meeting the local needs and what those needs are. So, but as far as the salary increases, it's like, as Mary Ann said, there are many districts have already met that minimum salary requirement.
Okay. And Chairman, if just one more follow up, and this is kind of shifting gears just a little bit from teacher salaries to instructional focus documents. This is getting into the weeds just a little bit.
Sure.
But so when new standards are released, and so most recently there were science standards released. There were new science standards for, so that's when we redo the test, right? And so there's a document called an instructional focus document that teachers receive, and that helps them prepare properly for the TCAP exam. So we're about 6 months into new science standards, still no instructional focus documents, unless there's been some breaking news there. Tell me about that. How far are we from getting, since we have new standards, how far out are the instructional focus documents?
I'm going to ask Christy Brown to respond, but I know that this has been something that we've been working on for a number of months. Go ahead.
Christy Brown, Chief Academic Officer. Thank you for that question. This is the year one of an 8-year year one implementation of an 8-year adoption cycle. And we have prioritized a number of the required documents and resources, the standards document, the standards training that we've actually had teacher groups to give feedback, help develop and deliver that across the state for science teachers. The crosswalk documents are available, again, folks in a textbook adoption cycle, and then the assessment blueprints are all available, so that we focus on some of the required resources that are available, and they are all available. Our supplemental resources like an IPG, which is an instructional practice guides, and the instructional focus documents are something that we are in current development. We've released the instructional focus documents for high school, and the other ones are being developed right now. We will get those out, and as soon as they are, they'll, of course, will last the entire 8-year adoption period.
Okay, so and we've talked about this a little bit, but before this meeting. But would we say for the record that if we're saying that instructional focus documents are valuable, which the department, certainly in the past has agreed that those are valuable documents for our teachers to be adequately prepared to teach our students, right? I mean, that trickles down to the students. for them to perform at their best level on a TCAP. If we're saying that those documents are valuable for that, would we say in the future, when we are releasing new standards, that the instructional focus document should also be ready on day one?
We will commit to prioritizing those documents going forward and having those available when those standards and adoption cycles starts as much as we can. Again, we are going to do the all of the required first, but we can certainly look at reprioritizing some of the things and being sure that those are available for teachers in the future.
Is that an on day one response?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we will
Thank you.
prioritize that for day
Okay.
one.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Leader. Next on the list, Chairman Boyd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, team. It's great to see you all today. So the last couple of years, one of the issues that we received the most feedback on was the third grade retention. And so I have a couple of questions surrounding that. There's certain promotion pathways allow for a student who did not score proficient on the spring TCAP to be promoted to fourth grade with tutoring, and requires adequate growth to be shown in fourth grade. What is adequate growth? Can y'all define that?
Jonathan Criswell?
So Jonathan Criswell, Chief Program Officer, State Department. That measure is taking now, it's changed in the last 2 years. It was taken from a pre-test to a post-test. To speed up the process and to get the data back to districts quicker, it is now taken from the TCAP test itself that the student took at the end of the spring, and then a test that they take at the end of summer, of their summer experience. And then run through a calculation that produces what would be considered adequate growth depending upon the number of weeks that the student was in a session.
You're recognized, Chairman Boyd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So moving on to the fourth grade. So if a student does make it to the fourth grade, so in the 23-24 school year, there were over 12,000 fourth grade students who were getting tutoring, were required to get tutoring, and were required to display adequate growth due to their third grade TCAP results. Just over half scored proficient or met the adequate growth target. The remaining 5,300 students did not meet their growth target, but were still promoted by conference determination. These students will receive tutoring in fifth grade. So what happens if these students still do not meet their adequate growth or proficiency targets in the fifth grade? Would they be retained?
That is a local decision.
Chairman Boyd.
Okay, thank you. So in conference determination, can a school's determination that a student should not be promoted be overruled by a parental decision?
Yeah, my understanding is that it is the conference includes the parent. So, so I don't think anybody can overrule it. I'm sure they come together and they make a decision collectively to decide whether or not the student should stay in that grade or move on to the next one.
So the parent's decision is incorporated into that. And ultimately, it would be the parent's decision. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Next on the list is Representative Love.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner, thank you for your presentation. Looking at the then and now changes, I think it's that slide right there. Looking at the NAEP scores,
Yes, sir.
2019 and 2024, I see a arrow going up, but I may have missed the percentage up. What is that percent up of the NAEP scores?
From 2020 to 2026?
No, yes. Is it just up or is there a percent up?
It's
I can.
5.2,
Yeah,
right?
well, so because this is actually 4 different assessments being
that's
reflected, we
right.
were showing just the cutoff.
I
Happy
got
to
you.
get you the results on each of those 4 assessments for both windows of time.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay.
If I can, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Representative Love, you're recognized.
Thank you. Also, looking at the 2020 to 2026 for ELA proficiency, math proficiency, are there areas, demographic categories where there was a decline or were all of our demographic categories up?
I don't have the information in front of me. I can definitely get it back to you, but I do believe that we had outperformed many states with our, I think it was, I can't remember, it was 4th or 8th grade African-American student population. But again, we can get that
Yes,
background
please.
information for you as soon as possible.
Yes, please, just email it to me. I don't want to
Absolutely.
belabor
Yes, sir.
the committee with these questions. Thank you so much, and thank you, Chairman, for your patience.
Thank you, Representative. Next up, Chairman Faison, you're recognized.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Good afternoon, Commissioner, Department of Ed. We have had many discussions over the last 2 years about federal funding and what requirements come with federal funding. And I'm just wondering, since the Schumer shutdown has been taking place, or we haven't made any decisions yet with federal funding as a state, are we losing any money? Is there being money withheld right now from the federal government?
No, sir.
Chairman Faison. All right, next on the list will be Leader Camper.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I don't know why he's trying to politicize this right now. I think the Republicans own the White House, the Senate, Congress. He wants to. Hey, you started. You started it.
Yeah, but I've got the gavel. Let's stick on
I'm
the
sorry. I didn't know that
budget.
was you.
Let's stick on the budget.
I'm sorry.
Here we go.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I thought that was the other chairman. G. Willigers. All right. Thank you for being here. Because of the federal shutdown and really the SNAP program, I think you mentioned it earlier. My question was around what impact you think this may have, particularly around the certification part, which takes place at the DHS, but it'll have an impact on you, whether you have funding, slow funding coming or whatever to get, funding for the free and reduced lunch program. What impact is this going to have on you should this happen on November 1st?
So, sorry.
Yeah, you're recognized. Go right ahead.
All right,
Thank you.
sir. We actually reached out to our federal partners at the U.S. Department of Agriculture yesterday and saw another 50 million load in our accounts for the nutrition programming. So as it stands, they are meeting the commitment on the nutrition programming, and we will continue to be in constant contact with them on that front.
Very good. I was hoping that you were getting ahead of it, and I'm glad that you did, because there is potential, for, the children to be impacted by that. And we don't want that to happen. We want to make sure if children are hungry, that we can feed them. So I really appreciate the forward thinking on that and keeping your finger on the pulse. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your answer.
Thank you, Leader Camper. Next on the list, Representative Capley. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Department, thank you for your time this afternoon. I really have more of a statement. I've been contacted by several of my school bus drivers and whoever's over the school bus drivers in there. I don't know that official title for that position, but anyway. And they've, kind of communicated to me that some of the testing and the requirements to be a school bus driver, I know we have a shortage right now in my area specifically. So really just going forward, if we could work together with my office and just kind of look at that and see if there's something that we can fix legislatively or just work together on making that a little bit more smoothly. But thank y'all for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next on the list, Representative Sparks.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, Commissioner, I think every one of us up here have a story about a school teacher that influenced our life in a positive way. I can think Miss Barnes, the late Mr. Knox. It seems like we don't have as many male teachers as we did females back when in the 80s. We have a fatherless crisis in this country. A lot of people don't seem to want to talk about it for some reason. This nation has the highest fatherless rate of any nation in the world, the highest incarceration rate of any nation in the world. It costs us a lot of money. I think the dropout rate is, I don't know if it's like 60% of those dropouts are from fatherless homes. Is there any discussion statewide that you know of trying to reach out to more male teachers and maybe African-American male teachers to get them more involved, to be kind of mentors for some of these young people?
Sure. I mean, Has there been statewide conversations? No. Again, we are, working with our directors of schools to really think about the needs at the local level. But that has been a focus. That's something that's Christy Brown and I have spoken about, is how do we, recruit more male teachers into the classroom. As a mom of 2 boys, I saw the influence that a male teacher, particularly for my youngest son, who wasn't engaged in school, really drew him. He had an AP English teacher who was a male, and all of a sudden he was Mr. ELA. Like, he wanted to take every class he could with with this instructor. And so that has really kind of, there is an institute called the Boys and Men's Institute. I believe it's oh, you don't like them? But they have spoken extensively about really trying to figure out what we can do to recruit more males into the classroom. Because what happens is you have more females in the classroom, but you have more administrators that are males. So how do we reverse that and really think through the kind of role models we can create for all our young men?
Yeah, if I could just remind the members and you, I don't know if y'all watched Parkinson's testimony on our legislation this year about, he brought a gun to school. I mean, Representative Parkinson shares this openly. I really appreciate his conviction. And he said, I feel like if I had a father at home, I don't think I've done that. He got arrested. Someone mentored him, influenced him. He went to the military. He's got such a cool story. And his heartfelt testimony really meant a lot to me. But it's just an issue that, didn't seem like no one really cares about. No one's willing to talk about it. No one's willing to get really more involved. Maybe there is, and I'm just not seeing it. So just put that on y'all's radar. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Commissioner, how many virtual schools do we have in the state?
I don't have that number. I had it. Let me see. We can pull that for you.
Okay, that's
I
okay.
had
You
it
can
for
get that to my
another
office. I'm
hearing.
curious
Yes,
because
sir.
I know on 3 of the most recent reports regarding virtual schools, there's 9 that keep showing up that really score below expectations. Now, TCA allows you to be able to suggest that those schools are discontinued or shut down, for better terms. And I wonder, does that happen very often, that you step in and say, okay, enough is enough, you're not performing to the standards, and shut it down?
I mean, at this point, I have not, but it's something that we have discussed in the last couple of weeks, to just think about what we can do there, because we want to make sure that all kids are served well.
And regarding, I guess, and have you discussed internally any other factors that would guide your decision on enforcing any enrollment caps maybe for virtual schools? Have you thought about that in regards to virtual schools? You recognize.
Thank you, sir. I think there was actually some start to conversation around this last year. We're in the process of running our accountability model for this year. So there's talk of what that needs to look like. One of the things that we've discussed internally is making sure that we are fully aware and briefed what the local need is that the virtual school was intended to meet, right? And making sure that we understand that dynamic on the ground in the community in informing any of those decisions.
I'm just really concerned that these virtual schools are meeting expectations. And when I see the same ones show up on the report time after time after time, I really start getting a little bit worried about that. So if you could get that, how many schools we've got, and really be interested in seeing that. Chairman Hawk, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and hopefully a bit of lighthearted comment, not necessarily for our guests, but I mentioned ag education earlier, and I'm quite sure that Leader Cochran can still wear his ag blue uniform. Chairman Faison, can you still wear your ag uniform, sir?
I like an answer. When we're done with the Schumer shutdown, I'll put it on.
See, there we go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, there's no one else. You are out of order. And so I have no one else on the list. So, Commissioner, thank you for being here. Thank you, and not only you, but your staff And I always embarrass her, and she thought she was going to get away with it. But I always want to mention Miss Mary Ann Dursky. And if you don't, let me have your attention for a second. If you don't know who Miss Mary Ann Dursky is, you go and ask your school system, ask them who Mary Ann Dursky is, and I promise you they will know. She is the guru behind the numbers. And so thank you for your work, Ms. Dursky. We aggravate you a lot in Rogersville City, and you always answer. So thank you. All right. Without further ado, without objection, we are going to go back into session. We are back in session. Is there any other business coming before the committee? Hearing none and seeing none, we do stand adjourned. Without objection.